timeline. So Mr. Stout he wasn't technically arrested, but he was injured in this shooting.
Yes.
And then talk about what happened from there.
Okay, Wednesday afternoon we received this call of this shooting in the Dry Hill section. It was approximately 7 p.m. Both victims were transported to the Johnson City Med Center. Mr. Stout by Wings Air, and no, I'm backing up. I'm wrong.
Okay.
Mr. Trivet was transported by air. Mr. Stout was transported by ground with the Johnson County EMS.
Okay.
Mr. Trivet was later released that night, and he was back home. Mr. Stout remained in the hospital till from Wednesday till Friday. Sometime Friday, we received information that Mr. Stout had left the Johnson City Med Center without the hospital's consent. We did not have a hold on Mr. Stout. I guess that's kindly our fault for not doing that. We were working on search warrants and different things with the DA's office, trying to make sure we were charging the proper charges and everything, and we failed to put a hold on him at the Med Center, so it was not the Med Center's fault. Since then, we have kept surveillance on Mr. Stout's house here in the county. There has been no activity there. We have contacted the family of Mr. Stout. They tell us they have no idea where he would have went to. So it's, right now we have him entered nationwide. We're looking for him. And hopefully someone will spot him and we will get him picked up. We do have warrants for him for attempted first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during commission of a dangerous felony, and tampering with evidence. So hopefully we'll receive information from someone shortly and we will get him picked up and in jail.
How long of a time was it between when he walked out sometime Friday to when you guys realized he was no longer in the hospital bed?
That is something I can't answer, Jordan. My investigators that are working that case are not here today. I spoke with them briefly on the phone. They had been notified Friday afternoon that he had left the hospital. I don't know exactly the time frame.
Is there any reason to believe he's armed or dangerous?
I wouldn't think so. We have his weapon. We have his vehicle. So we're not aware of how he's traveling at this time. So unless he has got another weapon somewhere, and I would think he couldn't purchase one with his record. Unless he bought one illegal somewhere, I wouldn't think he would be armed.
Okay. And do you believe he could still be in the Tri-Cities region?
I feel sure he's still in the Tri-City area somewhere, because unless his family are not being forthcoming with us, they say they have no idea. He has a sister, not exactly where she's located, but he has a brother in Ohio. And so that's the only relatives that I know of.
Okay. And again, go back to the shooting. Do we know how the Stout knew the victim, and what is the victim's name again?
Mark Trivet is the victim. They lived in close proximity of each other there on Dry Hill. Mr. Trivet either owns property or leases property adjoining Mr. Stout's residence there. And from what I can understand, maybe he has cattle on that property and he goes there to check on his cattle and different things. And Mr. Stout gets upset with this. When he arrived at Mr. Trivet's residence there on Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Trivet was in his driveway working on some farm machinery, from what I can understand. And Mr. Stout proceeded to have a confrontation with him over him being back down there on his property. And Mr. Trivet told him, he said, "I've not been down there." And that's when he pulled the weapon and started shooting at Mr. Trivet.
So it was over property and cattle?
It was over Mr. Trivet being on his own property, just checking on his property and his cattle. And Mr. Stout didn't like this.
Because they had like adjoining properties?
They had adjoining properties there, from what I can understand, and it's been an ongoing thing with Mr. Stout over in that section of the county with people. I mean, it's not only been the Trivets; it's been other people that's had some issues with him in the past.
Does Mr. Stout have previous charges?
Yes, he has been here in our jail before, of going armed, and he has another charge. I can't recall right off what it is.
But he does have a previous.
Yeah, he has a previous charges, and he is a convicted felon.
Okay. Now, when, you know, obviously you said you've talked to your detectives there and here today about what happened, and there was no hold on him. Talk about where this went wrong in this process. I mean, should he have been placed under charges?
We should have placed a hold with the med center and made sure they knew that as soon as he was released or anything, that we would be there to pick him up. And of course, I feel sure if they knew this, they would have had a tighter security on him there with their security people. So that's where the ball was dropped, I guess.
Okay. And the victim's family, any reason for any of these people to be concerned about their safety if he's still in the region? And his family has no idea where he is.
I wouldn't think so. The Trivets are concerned about him being out. I spoke with them this morning, and they are concerned about it. And but we are doing everything we can do to locate him and try to get him in our jail.
Okay. And with someone with attempted first-degree murder, I know you said, you know, you have his weapon, you have his car. I mean, are you at all worried he could, you know, gain another weapon, like you said, possibly illegally?
Well, if you want a gun bad enough, you're going to get one. You don't have to buy one from a store or a gun dealer. There's guns out there everywhere, and you can purchase these illegal. So.
And you said something about him, from what your investigator said, ripped out his IVs, because it sounds like, what was he being treated for in the hospital?
Well, he had a gunshot wound to the stomach, where Mr. Trivet had shot him, and he was being treated for this. And from what I can understand, that the med center told my investigators that he removed his IVs and this type of thing and left without their permission.
Okay. How concerned are you at this moment? Because you know this happened Friday. Talk about what you guys have been doing over the weekend. And
well, like I said, we've kept surveillance on his house to see if he returned there, and we have been looking for him. And like I said, he entered nationwide. And as of today, you all have put a picture on TV, I think, of him, and we've already received some calls, maybe, and it's active. It's an active investigation right now. We're trying diligently to locate him.
With something like this, were you thinking, you know, on Friday when he walked out that he was going to pop up maybe a day or two later, and then now it's been this many days?
Yeah, we assumed maybe that he would return home because he has nowhere to go that we know of. So that's why we kept close check on his residence. We figured he would show back up at home.
And with a gunshot wound to his stomach, does he need care? I mean, could he fall ill?
I assume he left the hospital without their permission. He still needs medical care. So this could go bad for him also.
Is it like okay? Let's see. So was it just one gunshot wound?
Yes, one gunshot wound to the stomach.
And do we know how many times Mr. Trivet was shot?
Mr. Trivet was grazed on the wrist, and he had a gunshot wound to the leg.
Could he face any? I know I talked to you about this off camera. Could he face any more charges once you find Stout?
Well, as of right now, the only charges we have is the ones I told you about there: the attempted first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and a convicted felon having a weapon and the commission of a dangerous felony. Right now, that's the only thing, unless he does something between now and the time we locate him.
Okay. But if there was a hold on him, could you have charged him with escape if he left?
Well, that would have been a call for the DA's office, I guess, possibly. But the warrants hadn't been served on him, so that's a technicality, you know, that we probably couldn't charge.
And when Mr. Stout approached Mr. Trivet, did Trivet already have his gun on him, or?
No, he had it there on his property. Like I said, him and Mr. Stout had an altercation before, and Mr. Trivet knew he went armed. He knew he carried a gun most of the time. And Mr. Trivet told us, he said, I knew he did. He said, he said, I stayed prepared. He said, and he said, I did retrieve my weapon that night and return fire, which you couldn't hardly blame him. I mean, he was at home.
So he shot back as like a safe, as a
He was
protecting
he was protecting his property and himself there. I mean,
Okay. Again, how many of your deputies are working on this search right now?
well, right now I've got 4 officers working today, and I just talked to one of the sergeants out here, and we're like I said, we're working on this right now.
Okay. I think that's it. But if like the victim's family is watching, is there anything you can say to assure them about this search, or Mr.
Well,
Trivett's family?
I don't think he's in our area right now. I believe he's outside the county, and I don't believe they're in any immediate danger. But if they do see anything or anything out of the ordinary or anything out of the way, they need to notify us immediately. Call 911.
Just because of what he's already attempted to do.
What he's already attempted to do, yes.
I was gonna say, do you believe any of his family could be? I know you said you believe he's out of the county, but just if I was going through that, in my mind, it's already attempted first degree
Right.
murder.
And he knows what he's already facing, so, and I wouldn't rule anything out at this point with this gentleman.
I was going to say, Mr. Stout is a criminal. Describe the kind of person you're dealing with that you're searching for.
From what I can understand, Mr. Stout has been in the military. Of course, he is, his age, I think, is like 66. He's an older gentleman, maybe with some PTSD problems, possibly. So this is kind of what we're dealing with.
Have you checked? I know you said he could be injured. Have you guys checked other hospitals or agencies?
Yeah, he's not checked into any other hospital. If he does, they'll notify us immediately.
Because I was going to say, do you know about how many more days he was going to need to be treated?
No, I have no idea how long the med center intended to keep him there.
So he wasn't under watch. Okay, I think that's pretty much it.
But if anybody does make a spotting or think they may see him somewhere, just call the local number here at the Sheriff's Department, the 423-727-7761 number, and report it to my people here.